This video walks you through a few features of the research article that are good to identify. Traditionally, research articles have certain same features that are worth observing. Although we are now talking about the research articles, you can find the same characteristics in other research sources. The article usually begins with a title that explains and describes the topic of the article. When you are browsing the search results, pay first attention to the titles and their relevance to your topic. In addition, the platform can also provide author and background organization information that will allow you to assess the expertise of the authors. The following abstract briefly describes the purpose of the study, the methods, and the results obtained, so you can get a compact picture of the study from the abstract. At least read the abstract before choosing a source for deeper reading. The actual article begins with the introduction that leads the reader to the topic and creates interest to read the entire article. Its purpose is to give a brief account of what is already known about the subject and to what larger entity it relates. The introduction answers the questions why the research is being done and which questions are being answered. The section of the previous research describes what has been studied about the topic and the team in the past, as well as what results have been obtained. At the same time, it shows how one's own research fits in the existing research. The method section of the article describes the used research methods and how the research has progressed. In this section, you will find tips on, for example, how to carry out your own survey or observation, and what you should take into consideration while doing your research. This section also allows the reader to evaluate the reliability of the research. The results section reviews the research findings relevant to the research questions, that is, the results of the research. However, the results are usually not yet interpreted. The results can also be presented in visual form, for example by means of tables or diagrams. In the discussion section, the researcher identifies and interprets the main findings of his or her research. He or she considers the significance of the results and relates them to previous research. This section also considers the reliability and ethics of the research. The possible errors and weaknesses of the study can also be pointed out in the discussion section. In addition to the introduction, it is worthwhile to read the conclusion section of the article at the beginning, where the researcher summarizes his or her research and its results. The usability of the results and the need for the further research can be also considered here. At the end of the article, you should always find the reference section, which contains a list of references used in the article. This is also worth exploring, as it can lead you to completely new sources. Sometimes finding one good source can lead you to more good sources. There are differences in the structure of the research articles depending on the field of the science or study or research tradition they represent. It's worth remembering the EMRD structure. Each research article should have at least the sections Introduction, Methods, Results, and Discussion. Note that slightly different words may be used for these sections, but the research should always include the introduction, the result methods being used, the results, and some discussion and/or conclusions. Traditionally, the EMRD structure is used especially in empirical studies. This was a short introduction how to identify research articles. I hope this was helpful to you. You can find more information about information seeking and evaluating information from the library online guide.